lies affect the masses. There's no excuse. You've been loosed.
This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I'm the host on this broadcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspective, Spiritual Truths. This is our podcast. We the people, my precious brothers and sisters, tonight we're going to continue our journey as we the people. We've been focused on that specific path, gaining a clear understanding of our great nation. We've got our flag that we love. We've got our presidential seal to remind us to pray for the president of this nation, for the White House. I'm continuing to pray for the millions, at least 265,900,000 Americans who've suffered in 2024, as we're coming up on the end of this year, who suffered. They were living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. 78% of working Americans. We're believing that's going to change. The majority of Americans felt like we were going in the wrong direction. About 80% said we were going in the wrong direction, and they made their voice heard at the polls. We had an election. People spoke loud and clear, saying we want something different to happen. So, you know me, I always want to know, in light of all these dynamics, who needs to be in charge? What was at stake? What is at stake? Doesn't matter who's in leadership. That determination's been made. We have dynamics that continually unfold. There are some people that have a hard time accepting some things, but we're going to keep going. There are so many dynamics that have occurred. We are concerned about the well-being of we the people. I am, especially the children. That's why I say what I say and do what I do. We have to look out for one another as Americans. Thus, when certain dynamics unfold, I pay attention. I want to know people they're supported and loved. Should we be concerned if the constitutional rights of our fellow Americans are violated? Would you want someone to be concerned if there was an undeniable pattern of your peers' constitutional rights being violated? A basic constitutional right that we have is freedom of speech. The First Amendment provides that Congress makes no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercise. It protects freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. Tonight, we're going to examine the Constitution and the freedom of speech with specificity. And from a clinical perspective, the power of your voice. Yes. This brings us to the question of, are Americans being censored in our great nation? What is censorship? Censorship blocks something from being read, heard, or seen. I've been censored before, and millions of others have too. If you've ever heard the sound of bleeping when someone is speaking on television, that's censorship. If things have been put at the bottom, whatever, we know what censorship is, and we know that it's happened to many of us. To censor is to review something and to choose to remove or hide parts of it that someone else considers as unacceptable, although we got freedom of speech. That's our constitutional right. In the United States, censorship involves the suppression of speech or public communication and raises issues of freedom of speech, which is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Interpretation of this fundamental freedom has varied since its enshrinement. This has been a big issue that Donald Trump said he was going to address in this nation. It's important because it connects to our constitutional rights. This is what we need to know. Anti-censorship measures are something that President-elect Trump has promised during his campaign, and he's already proven good on his word. A video that he did, he outlined his plan to, this is what he said. He said, I am going to shatter the left-wing censorship regime. Shatter it. It's thorough, bold, and effective. So much so that I heard Glenn Beck say it's the most amazing thing that he's heard any president ever say. And this is what the plan includes. Let's look at it. Trump said he's going to end government collusion with companies and individuals for censorship purposes. According to him, Donald John Trump, he said, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. He also vowed to ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation and begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship directly or indirectly. Whoa. There's a new sheriff in town. Oh, yeah. Then investigate and prosecute the digital censorship cabal. This is what he said, Trump. I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. To prevent the destruction of evidence, he declared his intentions to urge House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters to the Biden-Harris administration and to their campaign and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. And if you're being censored, I have said this, document it. Document it, take screenshots, do everything documented. Revise Section 230 of the Communications Act. What is that about? Let's look at some background. The Communications Act of 1934 combined and organized federal regulation of telephone, telegraph, and radio communications. The act created the Federal Communications Commission, Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, to oversee and regulate these industries. We need regulations, okay, but maybe not too much, but let's listen. Trump, this is what he stated, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. Wow. Then he said, we're going to do away with misinformation and disinformation. We need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis and disinformation. That's what he said. Before expressing his intentions to halt federal funding for all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authorization project, including penalizing U.S. universities that have engaged in censorship or election interference by withholding federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. Do you think he's playing? Do you think he's serious? He's talking about protecting our First Amendment constitutional rights of freedom of speech. He went on to say, we should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. Wow. We're getting back to the Constitution. What are our rights? Who's violated them? Who's ramrodded over us? Who's censored us? He then proposed banning an employee. This is what he said. He said, any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD from taking a job at any major tech platform in possession of vast quantities of U.S. user data for a period of 7 years. What do you mean? That's major protection. Then he talked about developing a digital Bill of Rights. Why would he even talk about this stuff? Because it's been abused. It's been abused. Develop a digital Bill of Rights. According to Trump, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content. Wow. We're talking about protecting the rights of us as we the people under the Constitution of First Amendment. Furthermore, when users of big line platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening. In other words, you got to notify us. You got to notify us that this is what you're going to do. They should be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. On top of that, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. Trump concluded in his 5-step anti-censorship plan with the statement, when I'm president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we will begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Listen, freedom of speech is important, and what you say is important because why? You are important. The power of your voice is the idea that your voice can have a significant impact on others, both personally and professionally. Tonight, from our clinical perspective, let's examine the power of your voice. Your voice is important. We looked at the First Amendment constitutional right. Now we're going to talk about the power of your voice. Your voice is important. Why? It can be used to express yourself, connect with others, create change. Yeah, we're talking about the power of our voice, our precious voice. Yeah. Your voice can convey a range of emotions, including happiness, anger, sadness, excitement, and empathy. It creates meaning. Your voice can add meaning and intention to your words and change how a sentence is interpreted. What else can your voice do? It can make an impact. Let me say this. Listen to this. This podcast was number one, the number one ranked podcast for 2 years in a row. The first year, it'd be like, oh, wow. 2 years in a row in the category of outreach series on the Creative Motion Television Network on Roku for 2 years in a row. It got to the point that there were 5,000 different things to choose from to watch on that station, on that network, the Creative Motion Television Network. We had such a powerful impact with our voice. I thank God, I give God all the glory, honor, and praise that this podcast was ranked number one in the category of outreach series for 2 years in a row. Number one. And you know what they did in one given day? The liberals shut the whole thing down. Shut the whole station down, guys. Our voice, and I might add, a good majority of people who were joining their platform were Christian, conservative, constitutionalists who happened to be Black Americans. True story. I'll keep going. Shut it down. But I'm still going on here. But on that venue, we're talking about freedom of speech. Boy, it would still be going today, based on what President Trump wants to do. Make an impact. Why is our voice important? Your voice can have the power to lead others to act, close deals, or land you successful in job interviews. I love empowering people. Stand up for what's right, our voice. It empowers us to do that, to stand up for what's right. And to encourage others to do the same. Your voice can be used to give your opinions on platforms to stand up for what's right. Our voice can be used to create a better world. Your voice can be a source of hope in different times, difficult times, different times, difficult times, good times. And using it for the truth, it can help create a better world. Here are some tips for using your voice effectively. Use your tone. Your tone. Your tone of voice can add meaning and intention to your words and can change how sentence is interpreted. It's a cadence. The Holy Spirit taught me how to have a cadence with what I say. Our voices are the potential source of incredibly deep healing and transformation. Our voices are it's a powerful way of channeling your energy, your purpose, your what's in you, what's in your mind, your will, your soul, your intellect, your desires, your emotions directly into the physical atmosphere, the physical plane, compressing your desire into a hearable, feelable wave of intention that literally impacts your reality and the reality of others. A voice gives your opinions a platform and gives you with the opportunity to have perspective and knowledge on things that matter. You matter. You matter to me. Y'all know that about me, how I feel about you. Everybody knows me. Because my motto on social media is what would happen if we talk to and with each other versus at each other. I want to know what you got to say. But anybody that knows me, I'll always say it this way. I respectfully suggest, I respectfully submit. I want to always be respectful to everybody. No two voices are the same. Mine's not like yours. Yours isn't like me. Thank God. But each voice has something different to say. And in a world that needs to represent freedom of speech and democracy, a voice is a powerful symbol of this. What have we looked at tonight? Oh my God, I love doing this. I love provoking thought, bringing awareness, and us embracing each other together as we close this amazing year out to go towards intervention. We've looked at the Constitution and freedom of speech. And from a clinical perspective, we've looked at the power of our voice. Listen, I believe that this nation has the greatest days ahead of us. I believe that we are one nation under God, indivisible. The enemy has tried to divide us historically from the very beginning up to now. America's is just as imperfect as the day is long, just as I am and just as you are. But I do know this, that together we can get much more done than we can divided. I love you. I love Democrats, Republicans, independents. I love Americans. I love people of every sexual persuasion, but I tell you what, I'm going to speak out for these babies, for these children, and they developmentally cannot handle certain things. And we've been on a path that has not been good in terms of targeting them. Oh yeah, they were targeted. You know why? We were told they were going to be targeted. And you know what we were told in terms of freedom of speech. Y'all had the right to say it, but thank you for letting us know when we were told we're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children. Well, there are parents that have a problem with that. You grown, you can do what you want to do in the privacy of your own quarters. But when you're talking about targeting kindergartners and first graders with sexual content, and we were told that that's what you're going to do, that's a problem. And I, as a teacher, school psychologist, licensed clinician, licensed minister, mother, potential grandmother, citizen of the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America, I'm going to stand up for these children. And if you're not, I want to know why not. What's going on in anybody's soul that you wouldn't protect a young child? So I invite us to step up to the plate and embrace this nation. Embrace and love one another as we go together from destruction to dignity. Listen, you know me. I'm going to say it and I'll keep saying it. We're one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we go together from destruction to dignity, clinical perspectives, spiritual truths, remember, we're going somewhere, and it's expecting us when we get there. Please keep going with me, because we are a powerful force to be reckoned with. And I want these babies, I want our posterity to be empowered in such a life-changing way that they'll look back and say, thank God that there were some grown folk that stood up on my behalf. Listen, I'll see you soon. I'll see you next week. God bless you, and God bless America. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.